without a further ado, we'll move on to our first panel discussion, which would be really intriguing on Leaders Speak, industry update on the current trends, challenges, and opportunities for OTT. As the competition in the OTT market heats up, fresh insights and perspectives on consumers' behavioral data are emerging. A complete element of OTT revolves around the data usage to better comprehend audience preferences and predict future content choices as well. Now, it emphasizes the power of technology and the influence that OTT players have over their subscribers' data. So to discuss on this, we have our industry experts with us. May I please have the pleasure to call Mr. Abhimanyu Singh, first of all, who is the founder and CEO, Contello Pictures. Please give him a huge, huge round of applause. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Samar Khan, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Juggernaut Productions. Please welcome Samar. We have Mr. Goldie Behel. I would like to take the honor to invite the director and producer, Goldie Behel, on stage. Would take the opportunity to invite Mr. Kaushal Modi, Senior Vice President, Content Licensing and Partnerships, Jio Entertainment. Please welcome Kaushal. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Mayank Shekhar, film critic, journalist and author. As he's on his way, so I'll request Mr. Wanwari to please come on the stage and start the session till the time he joins in between.
Let's begin with each of you, speaking about one trend in the industry, and then we'll elaborate on each of the trends that you'll come up with. Beginning with Kaushal, he's the biggest aggregator of TV channels, plus he's also getting other platforms onto his own platform that he has, the streaming service that he has. So talk about one trend and then we'll elaborate further.
It's about one-stop shop to get everything, and it's everything moving digital.
Okay. Goldie, you have a mic. One trend, you're a content creator.
So from a production house point of view, trends in as far as what is the kind of content and trends as far as what is the kind of business approach. So there are two different kinds of trends. As far as the content goes, definitely looking at getting more families onto the digital platforms so that it has a wider viewer. And as far as the production house goes, we intend to provide, like you said, one-stop shop. Even as a content creator, we also want to be a one-stop shop for all kinds of content. So it's about, managing the creative and production expectations by centralizing all the resources.
Okay. Samar?
I think the one trend that at least I'm noticing, and I think other production houses also noticing, is the slightly tightening of belts that is happening. Because I think with so many apps out there and so much of content being available and people realizing that now you're competing with films and you're competing with the normal linear television, you're competing with other things, there is a kind of a realignment of how many people are actually watching what we are making, and the pressures are increasing in terms of keeping the numbers in control, because finally it's going to be about revenue. And right now, I think that is the big thing that as a production house you're facing. And the other trend now, I think, is that we're all somewhere struggling to find stories. Because like I said, you're also competing with films, you're competing with linear, and you're competing with OTT. So the number of stories are finite till a point. And you are now trying to figure out what to say, what to tell, because they're all seeming like that kahin dekha hua hai, kahin kuch ho raha hai. Somebody has seen it before, done it before. So that's a new trend that we're trying to find new stories, new ways to tell them, newer talent. And so I think that's an emerging trend that at least we are facing.
Manu?
So I agree with Samar that pricing is going down. That's a clear trend in both linear as well as OTT. And that's more a commercial trend that is happening.
And an economic trend also.
Economic and a commercial trend. But having said that, I think over the last 5 to 7 years, OTT has been new to India. It's only 5, 7 years old. In this time, lots of platforms as well as production houses, I guess, have got now are clearer with data as to what's working and what's not. So I clearly see that, artistic, or I would say that, arty stuff is clearly not working. People want entertainment, they want masala, and that is in whichever format you make it, whichever genre you make it. And I think that's clear, that, some of the shows that we feel are very high up in our perception are not shows that have done well. And shows which we feel are not very high up in perception have done well. So the trends are very different from the perception of what we feel in this room.
So let's elaborate on your one-stop shop for everything. How does that translate in as far as geo platforms and geo is concerned?
So geo, very clearly we're trying to. So geo, very clearly we've been trying to go mass market. We are the largest telecom operator, now the largest broadband provider also. As you go deeper and deeper into the market, beyond the metros, going to the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities, people are looking for obviously content, but they're not willing to pay for it, or they're looking for a value pack. So our strategy was very clearly, how do we give them the maximum? How do we get them hooked on to watching beyond their existing television screens? Give them a different experience, which is also a cultural change. And we managed to do that where we currently offer 1,000+ channels on our GeoTV platform. We have 18+ app partnerships. We've got all the leading apps. As long as you're able to bundle it and make it affordable, or at least give that value perception, which is very critical for Bharat, so to speak, numbers, do take off. There has also been a change in the business model where everybody was looking at SVOD. Now AVOD is also a significant business model beyond YouTube, which was running a AVOD model. Everybody else was doing SVOD, given a handful of players who were there. But it's a deep pocket game. You need to be there in the game and reach that size and scale to get the economies to be able to sit on the table and get the billions of dollars which will flow into digital. So we had to, drive that, get the adoption, get the base increase significantly, and that's what we've been doing, and get it very easy to the customer. They don't want to go around, take 10 subscriptions, 5 subscriptions. They want something bundled in, single bill payment. They don't need, a bill shock. As long as you make it simple and easy, they're pretty happy.
Yeah, but recently Geo Studios launched they talked about launching 100 and investing thousands of crores in content. How has that helped in the bump up in terms of people subscribing to the Geo TV platform and Geo Cinema platform?
So from both are different propositions. So Geo Cinema is a OTT, run currently by Viacom, and we've already done the IPL on it. Geo Studio content is rolling out on that platform. Very clearly, it's now the #1 OTT in India with the sheer size and scale and the numbers which have happened. Geo TV is a different play, which is more of a telco play. It's locked to the service of our telecom service, and Geo TV Plus is our broadcast, is our OTT offering or the surface on home broadband. Effectively, what's happened is the entire CTV base and the connected homes numbers have increased significantly with IPL being available on the large screen for free. That's fueled the entire home broadband penetration. So that's driven the numbers. Geo TV is already driving that number on the telco side. Overall, OTT space is increasing with all of this free content being available. Or else, instead of getting hundreds of millions of subscribers watching a IPL match, it went down to just a few lakhs because it was behind a paywall. So that change has certainly driven. Obviously, what needs to follow behind that is the AVOD monetization model to make commercial sense, and we are getting there. There is also tightening of strings, as everybody's been saying that there is an issue where you have people not signing up for SWOT services, or that SWOT base has kind of stagnated, which is now creating a pressure on, the cost and in terms of investments. And that, you can keep running the business on a loss, but somewhere you have to turn around and say, hey, this is a viable commercial model, and that will, come in the market. There is a cycle which happens. There will be a bit of consolidation. Few players will shut shop, but effectively, it is a growing market. You just need to figure out what commercial models work for you to sustain in that game.
Wow. Goldie, your response to that in terms of, he's the platform, and basically they're talking about scale and also deep pockets. What does it mean for a producer like you and for producers like Samar and then Manu later?
I think for producers, Goldie and I will both agree, deep pockets is a
Yeah,
good
I was
thing.
about to say, I hope
pockets
that
is a good thing.
deep enough to sustain. But yes, like Manu was also saying that the Indian palette is very different. We should stop aping the West as far as the kind of audience that we're catering to. Because there's a kind of content that we sit at home and watch in a foreign language, and there's a content that is consumed by the mass audience that Geo appeals to. We at Rose are actually, yes, definitely, as Samar said, that there is a tightening of the belt, but having had all my experiences in life, I am not a big believer in very big budget stuff. I like to do medium-sized projects, and somewhere down the line, we've seen so many cycles of recessions and ups and downs, So you work on a price point which is recession-proof as much as it can be, that's a realistic approach to the business and to the content, Rest, is the kind of investment that you put into a project. That's how good it will be, beyond a certain, yes, the caliber of people working on it gets better, the time taken on it gets better.
But as he said, what we consider is working, Manu said, needn't work.
No,
Masala
I'm saying masala also, if you put money into masala film, it becomes Pathan, no? What I'm trying to say is that, I'm not talking about the palette changing. I'm saying the palette has to be an Indian palette, that you're catering to. But big numbers are generally bought in with extravagant experiences, that is a, give and take, It's like how much sugar you put in your tea, that's how sweet it will be, And moving forward, we are here to service, as content creators and producers. So we will continue to service the market and the trend in which it takes. We've been around for a long time now, and we've seen all the ups and downs. So depending on the.
So you're happy there's money, there's deep pockets. You'll continue to.
It's not reaching us though. And
it's not reaching you.
It's not reaching us yet. It's only. Should I say it's reaching mostly the CEOs of big companies.
See, I think I'll just take forward what Goldie said, and what he said correctly was about the Pathans and stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, there are two ways to play the game. You can make one show in 3 years, which can be a Pathan, or you can make 5 shows in a year, which can be a mid-level show. So the mid-level show will always survive because that is what is required. You cannot, for example, if I'm paying for an OTT, if I'm paying 190 rupees a month, or if I'm even paying 600 a month, or if I'm paying whatever the price point is, you can't give me one content every 6 months. I will need something to eat every day or watch every day. So there will be, I think they will both be there. You'll have the premium content creators, which is fair, which is great, and you have, you'll have one Taj, which will take so long and will be like an extravaganza, but then you'll have a Duranga or you'll have a Jabaz, which will be your, mid-level premium kind of content that you will watch. Plus you'll also have something else which will be slightly lower than that, which will be there. I think the difference between television and OTT is that television had a limited number of screens, so
200 million limited number of screens?
Yeah, but if you look at
in a house.
I'm talking about a particular household. You had one television screen, so one has been multiplied by 5. Now, what we are forgetting is that OTT is also a technology. It's not just about the fact that, why are we discounting the fact that Big Boss today, which was working so well on colors, has completely gone maybe
Ballistic.
4 or 5 times ballistic on OTT. The same thing will happen to other content also. So I think for producers, it is a great time because you are able to make all kinds of content. There was a time when maybe Goldie or Abhimanyu or me, were competing for one show at a 9 o'clock slot on television. But today we can make our kinds of shows. He can make his kind of show. I can make my kind of show. He can make his kind of show. All creative voices are finding a space.
Sure. I'm going to pause all of you because I've got the long-haired gentleman in the audience who's going to take over from me. Is Mayank in the first row? Yeah, he's cut his hair short, so it's not that long anymore. At the last session, it was pretty much longer. Mayank, take over from me, please. Sorry I stopped you from drinking your tea, but you can come and drink on stage. It's okay.
Hi, Mayank.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
Mayank.
So the rains actually shrunk his hair, I think. 1 second.
Thank you so much, and really, deepest apologies. Can't even say traffic anymore, right? Because you are traffic yourself. So what were you blaming? You were on the road as well. But I guess this is an amazing panel to be to moderate, primarily because you guys are some of the top content creators, head-on shows in your own ways, and of course storytellers in general in life. What I thought, which is true for storytelling in general as well, is the more specific it gets, the more universal it is. And I thought it'd be great time for everyone in the audience, and of course me in particular, to learn more about you specifically as content creators in your own professional lives, to get a sense of how the media landscape has changed, because we are discussing OTT all right, but none of you when you started out were really OTT players because there was no OTT. And I'm going to start with you, Abhimanyu, and of course you founded your own company in the mid-90s, Contilo Pictures. How did you get to that point? How did you start that firm? Where was it when you started it? Where is it now? And how has the scene really completely changed? Because I know we talk about OTT quite often with reference to cinema, but the fact is it's really impacted television as well, hasn't it? Take us through your own journey so we get a sense of how the world has changed.
So, Mayank, I think it's been a long journey, and it'll take a long time to go through the
We'll keep
journey.
it short, don't worry.
I'll keep it very short.
Yeah.
So I started in the mid-90s, and at that time there was no satellite, there was satellite broadcast, but there was very little satellite broadcast. It was largely Doordarshan,
Right.
who was the terrestrial channel, who ruled the roost. So from being there to now seeing a whole digital revolution,
So
the
did you start a
distribution-
company primarily to provide content to Doordarshan? Would that be correct?
Yes, my first show was with DD. And that time, there was, you had to sell your own content. So you learned the whole business of selling, marketing, as well as producing. But from there on, when, Star and Sony and all the broadcasters came in, that increased the amount of content and it increased the requirement for content. And the first disruption happened at that time. So there were a lot of makers that were doing a lot of content for Doordarshan. They got disrupted. Because you need to reinvent with each, tectonic shift in technology. Then from there on, now if you look at what's happening in the OTT space, there has been a change as far as, again, the requirement of content and the kind of genres and the kind of stories that you can tell. But in the core of, all the three revolutions that I've seen, in the core has still been the stories
Sure.
and the content. And I believe even now, when the ball's flying around, because you have, linear television, you have, AVOD, you have SVOD, you have TVOD, you have various technologies that are coming in. I think Reliance has come and disrupted the complete distribution landscape. With all this, as content makers, we just need to take our guard again and bat in the way. And I think that as I always believe that there's always an opportunity in any disruption. And today, if you look at it, I was just searching, for example, on Google searches, horror is the most searched genre, but it's the most underserviced genre on OTT in India. Now, I wonder why.
Well, you can change that, right? You can change that. You can make.
No,
some
I think
horror
we
shows.
can all means as
It's
an
the toughest to
ecosystem.
write, that's why.
As an ecosystem, we can change it.
Right.
Because I think youngsters want to see things like that. Now on television, I've done a lot of horror, but horror on television now does not exist because there's a discerning audience. Now the kind of audience that is, India is now actually seeing 3 different kind of audiences. One is like top of pyramid, one is mid of pyramid, one is lower, means in the lower blockchain. Now in this you can cater to all kinds of content and all kinds of genres. But you have to, your core still as a storyteller has to be to make compelling stories at the correct price points.
Right.
Because there is a severe pressure economically, I guess, on, see, like, I think everyone's going through that trial and error. They're making a lot of mistakes. Those mistakes are costing money. And therefore, there's pressure on revenue. And because there's pressure on revenue, you will obviously have the whole ecosystem get impacted.
Right.
And I think that's a phenomenon we're seeing. It'll settle down. But if you continue to make good content,
Fair enough. It'll always be about the good content, except that good content itself is subjective. It changes from person to person. Samar, I'm going to come to you, of course. I distinctly remember meeting you first time when you were actually with NDTV at the time, and you were a journalist, and then you moved on to content creation as a producer, as a director, even before that in films. Take us through that. How did you start, and where are you now, and how has the world changed?
I think nothing has changed. I mean, we're still stuck in traffic. I'm still sitting with 2 of my oldest friends over here. So really nothing has changed. I mean, like Manu said that I think everything has changed, but nothing has changed. You know, and when I say everything has changed, I think the opportunity to tell stories has increased multifold.
Right.
You know, when we started off our careers in the 90s, there were so many stories to tell, but there was only limited avenue. That avenue has grown. So which is why there are more stories there are more diverse stories being taken out. You know, cinema had this barrier of saying that, oh, you can't have a female as a lead character. But if you see the shows that, you know, Amanyu did or...
Television itself, right? Yeah.
Television itself. Yeah. Television did, or the ones that Goldie did, or the ones that I do now. You know, most of our protagonists are female protagonists. You know, we have done shows which are led by them. The definition of a hero has changed, the definition of a heroine has changed, the definition of what good has changed. So everything, a lot has changed in the way we are telling our stories and the way stories are being consumed by the audiences. Because your audience sizes have increased, your number of screens that are there have increased. I think that's the biggest change that probably all us content creators have seen. There are stories today where people are coming in from smaller cities, people are coming in and giving us stories. I think because of the fact that there is an email, there is social media, you're able to pick up stories, you know, and I think what helps me is my journalistic background, where I'm able to pick up, you know, stories which probably other content creators are not able to see. So that does help me. But I think we are able to pick up stories from everywhere. And I think maybe Namanyu and Goldie might agree to that there was a limited pool of storytellers that we were able to go to earlier. But today we are able to go to a far vast, you know, a far bigger pool of storytellers. And I think that has been a significant change that's happened because of the new technology called OTT and the fact
and the
that
cell phone, right? Because that's the number of screens you're talking about.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And the amount of content being created. Yes, monetization and all of that is something that has to happen. And I think, you know, there are experts like him and other people who will figure it out because everybody wants to make money at the end of the day. When television started, nobody made money for the first couple of years, you know, or it had to settle in. And then everything starts making money because either advertising pays for it or subscriber pays for it. Somebody will pay for it.
Right.
But the biggest change that has happened and is happening is that there is a tsunami of stories out there. And there is access to those stories and we are able to tell those stories because of the number of screens that have increased, Mike.
Right. Goldie, I have to confess that I'm a huge fan of this particular thing called Lehrein. Okay, Lehrein used to be these videos from back in the day when, you know, Bollywood used to be covered in these VHS tapes and everyone used to watch it. And because once you become a huge fan of anything, that's the only videos that will pop up, whether I'm on Facebook or on Instagram. And there's one video that popped up recently, which was of a premiere of a film, of an Amitabh Bachchan movie. And, you know, he walks in, there's like, so, you know, what those amazing retro videos, right? And that was a film that was produced by your father, Ramesh Bahel. And then Amitabh Bachchan speaks in that, on the stage, and he talks about you and the fact that he passed away during the making of that film, and then you took over as the producer, as the filmmaker, and you look extremely young. I'm presuming you were in your teens at the time. Take us to that story. That's probably how you got into Bollywood, right?
Yeah, I was about 15, 16 years old at that point.
Wow.
And business has changed a lot and not changed. Yeah, I mean,
What was this movie?
it was a movie called Indrajit. It was
Okay.
a remake of a Kannada movie that my father had started. And he was producing with the Kannada director, K.V. Raju. And he passed away halfway through it. Obviously, you know, in a sense, he was the producer slash nowadays what they call showrunner on the film, and then it needed to get completed. So of course there were some family members who helped out, the director himself, but I was thrown in the midst of things. Had to you know, drop out of college, do it in correspondence. Contrary to popular belief, life isn't as easy for, you know, industry children as they think that it is. But yeah, finished that film, you know, learned stuff, you know, the greatest learnings are from tragedies and, you know, jumping straight into the deep end. So got to learn all the tough part of the business. Yes, it was an Amitabh Bachchan star, so, you know, it wasn't as tough in that sense. But still, you know, without a, you know, leader, so that premiere in particular was, you know, he used to, you know, that time there were these prints and reels, and, you know, you had to take them and show them around and show distributors. And like Manu did Doordarshan, I did film that way, you know, which I think is coming back, that trend is coming back, of individual producers, you know, putting the money together, selling it to distributors, showing a little bit of their film, then raising some more money, then showing a little bit more, raising some more money, then, you know, marketing it to the audience directly, you know, speaking to the exhibitors, you know, doing the whole, you know, shebang of the whole thing. So one has seen all that, you know, how that works, what are the deals the theaters give you, what they're giving now, you know. So one was thrown into that whole production house, distribution, exhibition, that whole thing. And that was the premiere. It was an Indo-American something.
Indo-American Society, yeah.
Indo-American Society premiere, and they had sponsored it. So, yeah, I mean, he was sweet enough to introduce me to the industry at that point. And one started work from there on, you know.
So 15, 16, you started out as a producer, and of course, you then produced films, but you primarily also done a lot of television,
Yes.
right? How has television changed with the advent of OTT over the past 7 to 8 years? In fact, it's not an old industry; it's a very new industry. When you go to pitch, what demographic are they looking at? Because OTT is another world that exists as well.
So, like Mani was saying, you know, now there are about 3, you know, verticals, so to speak, you know, of digital / non-theatrical entertainment, you know, which is your linear TV, and there's the S ward, which is your premium content. Then there is the A ward, which is your TV plus, what they call nowadays. And then, sorry, there's a 4th now. And yeah, these 3 predominantly. So in the linear TV, what I have noticed is that definitely they're looking at, you know, from a socio-economic point of view, maybe not that high, you know, and maybe wider, you know, appealing to people who cannot afford to use that much data, basically, you know. And so there is a certain understanding of the audience over there, and, you know, belief systems are different, you know, because of the education or because of the surroundings, you know. I'm not saying educated people have the best belief system, but so there is a different strata that you're appealing to. So you got to, you know, find those kind of stories. Then for the TV plus category, which is a hybrid between your linear TV and your
Basically streaming on an OTT platform, that's what you mean at some level.
yeah, but there is a breakaway from Saas Bahus. It's something ironically I always did. I never made Saas Bahus when I was doing linear TV also. But I don't think Manu, you also never did Saas Bahus as such. But
Only Ekta Kapoor did Saas Bahus, is that
no,
what
no,
it is?
everybody else.
Everybody else did.
Ekta and everybody else. We are the few people who, I think we must have tried one or two and realized we can't do it.
But I think what is similar now in linear television is that you're still catering to the housewife. And I think on OTT, it's largely the male audience that you're catering to. So there is definitely...
No, I disagree with you because on OTT now, there is a big reach out.
They want to
There is a big reach out.
There is a big
want
reach out
to reach out to the female
audience. And there's a lot of female watching now.
I mean, like for example, look at Taj, or even if you look at Duranga, or if you look at Jabaz, they're all led by female characters and they are being made for women. They're being targeted. The marketing is strategized to reach women. I think
Kaushal, this is where I think
You would
I
have
need
to
to bring
chip in.
you in. Of course, your story, your journey is going to be very different from theirs. I'm presuming you have a far greater corporate background and then you got into entertainment media.
And I
Would
think
that be
he's far
correct to
more
say?
educated than all of us put together, I guess.
Kaushal comes from the good old days of Star. So
Right, right. Take us through that, Kaushal. Take us through your journey so we get a sense of how things have changed for you as well as a professional in a new industry altogether.
I started off with FMCG and then decided, this is just a run-of-the-day job kind of thing. I want to do something different.
Which companies were you working with?
So I was with Godrej,
Okay.
selling oil and vanaspati, and then said, this doesn't make sense. Heard about a bug called Y2K and joined a company called India.com. And that was the starting of, exposure to internet. Those days, internet was, it was, I think, the 256, not even 256 kbps connectivity, dial-up. It would take, maybe 30 seconds to load the homepage of the website. But the realization there was, internet is there to stay. The way it would get consumed would change. And then the journey started.
So would that be part of the first bust that happened? India.com would be part of that particular .com bust because there was a boom and then it suddenly seemed like maybe we were not ready for it at that time?
Yeah, I think so. The good part about India.com was it was News Corp funded and we had the money, so we didn't go bust. We just got taken over by Star and we just got integrated into Star.
Right.
And then so we kind of survived that journey. A lot of companies in 2002 kind of went bust, ran out of money or did not get the next tranche of money. And this cycle happens, typical startup cycle where you get the monies coming in and it's a hype. Then you got to deliver on the business models. You make the money and then you continue. So that happened. Star happened. Star we started. The SMSing and play along with KBC and download a ringtone kind of business. And then obviously it's transformed to the OTTs coming in, I think so. A good 10 years ago, OTTs came in and you didn't have the consumption the way it is today. The phones were different, devices, ecosystem, data, everything changed. We never, heard about, getting 70, 80 Mbps and now, close to 700 to 800 Mbps on a phone. Not, paying like peanuts for it, consuming 15
Well, Geo has a
GB.
lot to do with it, right?
Yeah, so that inflection moment obviously happened, with 4K coming, 4G launch and data pricing going, dropping to 100th. That's where things changed, and somewhere you need to be a catalyst to grow this entire ecosystem, and the barriers were connectivity, devices, content. All of those started changing. So effectively, that's where the change happened. Been there with Reliance right from the start of, early 2015, where we saw, the trials being done and launching our services. We only had, I think so, 8 to 10 linear channels being offered. That time, people did not believe, people, will watch linear TV or watch, anything more than 4 or 5 minutes of content on your phone. We gave them the data and we just suddenly saw a completely different, usage pattern where people started watching content on the small screen. It became more personalized. while initially the SIM cards were in the name of the chief wage earner of the home, the consumption was very different because your wife or your daughter or your kid would have the SIM in the name of the father, but the consumption patterns are very, very different. So a lot of those insights started coming in. We saw a lot of change happening. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, again, there was a huge shift which happened. I think so what would have taken 5 years for this OTT industry or the digital ecosystem to evolve got crunched in maybe 3 months.
Right.
You know, suddenly from a opportunity, you had micro payments which were enabled. Everybody was, you know, trying to get onto the internet bandwagon. If you can't have broadband at home, at least get it on your phone. You know, get a 4G SIM, get a 4G device, which became, you know, sub 8,000, sub 5,000 bucks. You know, price keeps falling, and now we've also further launched the JioPhone, which is 999 bucks to enable people to, you know, just experience internet. Once you experience that, then there's no going back. From a content consumption perspective, you know, content is the heart of it. Yeah. From an entertainment perspective, they want stories. What's changed is just the mode of delivery. From a satellite, it's moved to digital. It's moved from a large screen to a personalized viewing experience. From, you know, not being able to pay or not being able to select your channels to being able to buy SWOT services, be flooded with, you know, hours and hours of content and options, and, you know, the entire creator ecosystem from just maybe, you know, 10 slots being available on Doordarshan to, you know, numerous opportunities and platforms available. So that's changed. What's brought is a change in the business model. You know, the model changed earlier from a slot sale to an advertising sale to a different, you know, charge model. So that's changed. But effectively, it's the same thing. You're fighting for, you know, those 3-4 hours of, viewing time which a consumer has. You're fighting for that. Earlier, it was TV. It was, you know, the remote was in the hand of, the owner of the family or the head of the family, and they would decide what you watch, and everybody is just sitting and watching the same thing with no other option. Now, you don't like it, just go pick up your phone or pick up your tab, just watch it separately, you watch it, you know. So that change has happened. Even from a content perspective, it's changed. People were looking at only a linear TV. Now it's linear TV, it's catch-up TV. There are ad-supported channels. We've got FTA channels which are there. International guys call it a fancier name called FAST. So they've been using their entire content archives which they're sitting on, not getting monetized. You sell 5% of your catalog, you know, on a regular basis. 95% is just lying in the lockers. You have no monetization. So they've started fast channels. You've got AVOD, you've got SVOD, you know, TVOD is also there. So there's tiering of customers which is happening, tiering of offering, and, you know, each customer decides what they want to do.
So, you know, I think that the larger point then therefore becomes you have fast, AVOD, SVOD, linear TV also. It's not like it's gone anywhere. It still has a fairly strong audience as well. Do you think, and a lot of people might believe so, that there's just way too much content? It's impossible for a person to figure out what the hell to watch because there's just too much. That's a consumption point of view, right? From a content creator point of view, back when you started Goldie, for instance, you could make a film like Indrajit, right, which would be your first film that you finish, and there's Amitabh Bachchan in it. It'll become an event on its own. It's much harder for anything to stand out. Would you agree, Mani, that it's much harder to reach eyeballs because the eyeballs just cannot sift through that much material
I
from
agree there's
multiple
a lot
devices?
of content, but good content will stand out. I also believe that you have to create franchises. I went and saw MI yesterday, and Total Masala.
Yeah.
It was
It's
full
a hardcore Bollywood movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that, and I guess if, you know, somebody was to see it right now, if it wasn't a franchise, it wouldn't have the same kind of, traction as it's getting. And properties will have to be created. You can, there's a certain amount of demand. If you can come to the demand supply, right now too much supply in the market, not so much demand as the supply, and that will settle down. Then you will have this, and technology will continue to disrupt. Like, you know, Kaushal was saying right now, he's seen that whole, you know, he's taken you through the whole technology change that has happened, but it's becoming more rapid. It's becoming faster. With metaverse coming in, it's going to be far more engagement, far lesser attention audience spans. How you're going to create content which is going to be more immersive. So and by the time we crack that, there'll be something else coming up. So I think as content creators, we'll have to continue to be on our toes. We'll have to continue to think of new stories, new ways of telling those stories, new ways of creating engagement. Because I took my daughter yesterday, she's 13 years old. And if I realized that because she's so much onto her gadget, that if there wasn't a gratification every 3 minutes, she was getting bored. So in MI, there's so much of gratification every 3 minutes, and then there were those few emotional scenes, they were disconnecting with this audience. So, there's a whole new audience coming in.
Right. I think what's heartening is that you took your daughter to watch a Tom Cruise film, and you were a Tom Cruise fan yourself,
Yeah,
and so is your child, which is very rare, right? I mean, the world.
Telling you, we went and watched my mom came.
Yeah.
And my son.
Right.
To the cinema hall, which I think is great, But I agree with him, the first thing my son sees, he's 18 now, is the first thing he sees, acha, we're watching this, how long is it? How long is the time? First thing they see is the time bar,
They don't mind watching a series like, 10 episodes in one go.
No.
Right?
They watch a lot of, YouTube and stuff like that, So there is a constant, need to shake them up and draw their attention constantly, just like what Mani was saying, So I think that is very, very important. That's something that even we keep in mind when we're writing content or when we're developing content, that how do we keep the audience engaged from the first frame to the last frame? And it's actually nothing new, It's something that back in the days, there's a small trivia I wanted to just share, is when we used to write a movie, and I was writing my first movie which I wanted to direct. And I had I was fortunate enough to narrate it to Rajkumar Barjatya, who was just generally just curious, like, what am I making? And I narrated it in the whole story, and I told him all the twists and turns and the plot reveals and all this stuff. So he kept on asking me, ये कौन से reel में होता है? ये कौन से reel के end में होता है? ये कौन से reel में उसमें होता है? So there was always a system, of storytelling.
A rhythm for it.
A rhythm for it, where, you need to keep on engaging the audience, and we somehow forgot about it, or, went into this, drifting along into some parallel universe, which is very eclectic and, I don't know what, we forgot the basics of storytelling for mass viewing. Of course, you want to do a visual, installation for your house, then, by all means do it a great job. Or you want to do something experimental, do it at a very low cost, like they do it abroad, But over here in India, we've done a lot of high budget experiments. Even I've tried one. But, I still try to make it mass appealing.
Right.
At least my intent was that.
Yeah.
But the practice was there even then, So if you see even Maverick or Mission Impossible, they have that whole, there is a rhythm, of engaging the audience every, a reel was 10 minutes, 8 minutes,
I think
so every 8 minutes there was like, boom, wake up and watch me, wake up and watch me.
I mean, just taking Goldie and Abhimanyu's point forward, as content creators, I think the biggest challenge today, and all of us started in the 90s, all three of us started in the 90s, the change is happening so rapidly that it's difficult to keep pace with the change. So storytelling, when you had a certain pattern, used to work for about 10 years. कि अच्छा ये love story चलेगी या एक romantic film. 5 साल तो वो trend चलता था. The trends are changing so fast that it's becoming really difficult to keep pace with it. Whether it's catering to the youngsters or saying, okay, every 5 minutes there should be a twist.
That could be genre, but what I'm talking about is the rhythm of
No,
film.
the rhythm. I'm saying the rhythm. Earlier it maybe was that every 15 minutes there needed to be a twist, or 20 minutes needed to be a twist. Now they're asking for twist every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So that you have to keep pace with it. Then Manu mentioned about the metaverse. I don't know how it's going to change. We have to keep abreast with it to try and see how the content, what kind of content will work there. Then today we are the metaverse, tomorrow, I saw Mission Impossible last night. They had for the first time ever, probably I've seen that they didn't have a villain.
Kaushal, have you seen Mission Impossible? Because you'll be left out of this. Everybody has. Why did you skip
I'm going over the weekend.
Oh, you're going over the weekend.
He's waiting. He's waiting for it to come on Geo.
When Jio gives it free, then he will watch it.
No, but I think the larger point also when it comes to mass entertainment, and that's really what we're dealing with, is the fact that you could have a Tom Cruise, you can put in that kind of money around Tom Cruise, not around a
I
character.
don't
like
think so. I think they put in money also on the franchise.
Yeah.
They put in money on Mission Impossible.
Absolutely.
And yes, Tom Cruise
But Tom
headlines
Cruise is Mission Impossible. He's
Not
Ethan
really.
Hunt.
I think they have...
Can you change him? You think it'll be, you take a newbie
Maybe
in Mission
it will.
Impossible, you think it'll do well?
Maybe it
Guys,
will.
Seriously?
I think maybe it will.
Watch it at least. I'll be curious.
I'll be curious
You'll
to
watch it once.
No,
I'll
I
be
think
curious to watch it.
all your Superman series, everything is the main.
The Avengers
Christopher Reeve has
series. Look
changed.
at Avengers. So I think
This is different though. This is Tom
Yeah, but
Cruise.
sure,
This is,
okay,
this is
fair enough.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
to
a
answer-
superstar in
to
a very
answer-
Bollywood sense.
To answer your point, I mean, they did change James Bond, but James Bond continued. You had 4 James Bonds.
Right.
Now, I don't know who's going to be the next one, but James Bond is James Bond. So
you're
they-
saying it's Ethan Hunt, it's not Tom Cruise. I
Probably.
beg to differ here, but never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree that Tom
I read
Cruise
your
is
review
a
in the morning.
phenomenon.
So I read your review in the morning, so I know you beg to differ on that one.
I think he's a phenomenon, and I think he also understands the audience. He's the executive producer also, right? So he understands. He's a creator himself.
Yeah.
So to have lasted for so long, he couldn't be a non-creative guy. So to answer your question, I think franchises, content is bigger than either the producer or the actor. So franchises, my point was that you make a franchise and then you build on that franchise, then the franchises become
Might continue.
entertaining
So
and engaging enough.
I'll give you an example. I mean, today that, okay, we did a show called Avrodh, for Sony Live. We did Avrodh 2. Now we're doing 3, Touchwood. It's a franchise. It's gone to the 3rd season. All 3 seasons have had different heroes. But we are hoping that Avrodh becomes a franchise.
Right.
That it will be able to
It
continue.
gives you the sampling. After that, the content has to be relevant. If the content is not relevant, in like 24 hours, you'll come to know whether the box office...
I'm going to take you up here because it's not like I often get to meet people from Geo, right? And there are multiple disruptions, but it seems the biggest one that's happened lately is that you guys want to just take over the whole industry, like just literally own everything that is to do with entertainment. Would that be correct to say? Will we only be watching Geo now, screwed new Netflix, बाहर में जाए Amazon, बस बैठ के हम Geo देखेंगे, सब कुछ उसी में आएगा. I'm sure he's hoping that. Yeah. Is that what the plan is?
No, not really.
With everything else of Reliance, it's domination, isn't it?
No, it's not really. If you look at it, Geo Studio announced 100 pieces of content. Yeah, the industry makes maybe 10,000 pieces of content or maybe more. So there's no way you can control or you can take dominance from that space. What we've done is we've just kind of enabled and made sure that the ecosystem is fired up. Be it new technology coming in, AI, VR, predictive, a lot of other things coming in. We're just kind of catalyzing it. Our business is, as Geo predominantly is a telco business. We needed to do the apps, we needed to add or get content because we needed those experiences to come out. Once the experience is out, then it is, it just kind of opens up the market. On Geo Fiber, we've partnered with 14 apps, 18 apps right now. So we've got virtually everybody, signed up, who've got the size and scale currently. And we're also enabling a lot more regional, smaller OTT players to be exposed on the surface for people to come and experience it. So it's about creating an ecosystem and just kind of opening it up because I don't think so. It's just a fight about who controls. You'll never be able to control by or grow the market by controlling it.
Right.
It's about just opening it up and making it bigger. And the market has changed. OTT was never so big. Look at it. OTTs have got budgets more than films or even television series. Which is not the case. It just kind of changed. The investments have changed significantly. SWOD OTTs have become, investing more. Totally between all the top guys, there's billions of dollars being invested, which was never there. So we're saying, hey, if we can just kind of fire up, we can create that ecosystem. If we don't do it, somebody else will do it. And eventually everybody is doing it. Broadband is offered by us, by competition, by cable operators. There are people offering all of those. Mobility is obviously a regulated service, so that's why it's a bit different. But yes, exposure is there. Today, you don't need to partner with a Geo to be present or for a consumer of Geo to be able to access your content. It's open. You can do it.
Which brings me to the last point, of course. This is where I'll allow you to please plug your shows and tell us exactly what we should be looking forward to. I'll start with you, Abhimanyu. Like, what is it that you think that you've created that you're particularly proud of that we should certainly look forward to when it comes, and where is it going to come?
So we on the digital platforms, we've only made 2 shows, but they're franchises both, according to me. One is, say, State of Siege, where we're going to be starting to work on the 3rd part. The first was on the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. Second was on the Akshardham temple attack. And, like Samar was saying, that the State of Siege has become a franchise, like Avrod has become a franchise. And the characters are not similar. It's basically about insurgencies that have happened.
Right.
And the counter-insurgencies by our security forces. So that's one which we are working on and we're excited about. And obviously Taj is just released. And we are looking forward to now the next chapter of Taj. And then there are some other pieces of content, but I can't talk about it at this stage. But on the television front, we continue to do work. We are currently producing a very ambitious project for, which is the history of India, for the government of India, which is for Prasad Bharati, which is the arrival of the Portuguese, 1498 to 1947. What is the story of how, the Western powers came into India, and from there on, the struggle for India to gain back its freedom, which took nearly 400 years. So that's like 75 different stories for 75 years of independence, which is a very big and tall project that we continue to produce at this stage. And at some stage, I think it will be available on OTT also.
Samar?
The 2 shows that we are currently, 3 shows actually that we're currently working on, and luckily all 3 are franchises. We have Illegal, which we did season 1, season 2, and now season 3 will go on to Jio Cinema. I don't know if it's going to be free or not, but it will go on to Jio Cinema. So yeah, that's the one franchise that I think we have created.
Like nobody does a single show anymore, right? No,
It's,
single
I think,
series,
becoming,
single season.
No, they are.
Everything
shows,
is like franchise. Maybe
but franchises are becoming more, because like what Manu
are we
said,
are we going the way of old television where nichodte jao?
It's not nichodna.
Khiste jao,
No,
khiste jao.
it's not about nichodna. The whole idea is that a franchise outlives the star. So I mean, it's not like that Illegal season 3 it's what?
No, what I'm saying is when you're signing up for a show, is it already understood that it'll go into its 3rd or 4th season?
It's kind of understood, and I think
Yeah,
that's...
hoping.
You're hoping,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But should it not depend on how well the first one did?
Of
Because
course.
that's how sequels work.
It's always dependent on
It
that.
always depends on how the first one does, and then
Yeah.
you don't do the second one. But what franchises give you is the fact that the audiences don't need to be...
A captive audience.
Yeah, you don't need to spend that kind of money on advertising and marketing it on a brand new show. Because they know the franchise. So, Illegal is a franchise, then Avrod we are working on, and Shurveer, which was on Disney Hotstar, we're working on season 2. So these are the 3 shows that we are currently working on, and touchwood by now, I mean, we are hoping that they become long-running franchises, and I can keep coming back here and keep talking about it.
Goldie?
Yeah, so I'm proud of all the work I did.
Yeah.
Good or bad, people decide that. So we have 2 season 2s coming out. One is Duranga, and the other one is Mithya. Apart from that, we're working on something with Applause, which is something fresh, which they need to announce, and something with Sony, Amazon Mini, Prime. So there are a few things in the basket, yeah, so that's...
So, I mean, personally for you, Goldie, given that you started out in Bollywood and you're as homegrown Bollywood as it gets, do you think that particular world of, opening numbers, box office is just too much, maramari compared to creating a show for a platform, even though the returns may not be the same, right? Because the returns in cinema can go as far as it can, whereas...
So, yeah, I mean, I've seen my movies not work, and I've seen some shows also not work. But
what's the difference when a show doesn't work and a
when a movie doesn't work,
The platform loses money, he says.
No, I mean, from an emotional point of view, they're both very painful because, you know, as
Sure.
makers, we put as much into anything that we put it into. The humiliation of a failure is far more when it's a film which is released in theatre. But the pain is the same. And financially, yes, there is a difference.
You're more sorted financially in that sense, right?
Yes and no. I had some bad experiences on television as well when they pulled the plug really early.
The difference over here is that the movie doesn't work, you still own the movie. There is potential to make money on it.
Not nowadays.
But still your IP is right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie stays with you. Every 7 years, you will sell this. I mean, perception-wise, when a movie fails...
Everything with Jio. But yeah, so, sorry, I forgot.
So the point being, is it a little less, is it a little more stress-free when you're dealing with making content from OTT platforms against a film releasing in theatre?
In a theatrical film, sorry, let me just finish myself. In a theatrical, no, the person you're servicing is the star of the film. You know, so that process, you have to be a different beast to do that. You know, so you have to go and wait outside that star's vanity van or go to his house. You know,
But your star was Abhishek Bachchan, your friend there. You would not want to make you wait.
Yeah, but the age-old practices are that you need a star in a production house. You know, so if that star works, the production house works, or you create a new star, or you align with the new star. And if you see it generationally also, you know, you see any Hollywood production house also, they center the pivot around a movie star. You know, and that is a different thing altogether. You know. And but whereas when you're making content for television or OTT or this thing, you're servicing a organization, an executive, you know, and hence the audience that is eventually watching.
Executives.
Executive.
Fair enough, fair
executive.
enough. You're not saying one is...
I don't know how many you deal with, bro. But culturally, I think I was more adept for that rather than servicing a star, you know. So I chose this path, or I was made to choose this path naturally, organically, you know. I find it much more comfortable. I find it far more reasonable, you know. A lot of people don't, you know. A lot of people have a very difficult time, but I just feel that, you know, everybody's out there to make a hit show, right? You know. So let's get everybody on the table and let's discuss it out, you know. What is your issue? What is my pain points? I'll tell you, you know. And we can have a reasonable discussion about it. It's most of the times not on a whim. Most of the times.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Kaushal, obviously I'm not going to ask you all that you're going to put out purely because that'll take us the whole day because you practically have 100 pieces of content as you mentioned. But I'm going to end with this on this particular note, Kaushal, and tell me if I'm mistaken. Do you think that the OTT industry, because there will be a shakeout, there isn't space for that many platforms to exist, for people to subscribe to that many, or even advertising to go into that many platforms? Geo will obviously stay. There's nothing that you can do to Geo at this point or even in the near future. Do you think it will become more and more? Would it take the model of Hollywood where there are about 5 or 6 big studios, they run the whole show, and there'll be these 5 or 6 that will eventually remain, and the rest will have to eat dirt because you need very deep pockets to survive eventually?
See, this has happened in television too. You know, you're down to, you know, the top 4 or 5 networks which are controlling 80% of the market share. The same thing would happen in digital too, in the SWOT space. But the beauty about digital is obviously it's democratized in terms of there are platforms like YouTube, there are social media platforms where you can create
Anyone
content.
becomes a star.
Yeah, anybody can
I'm
become
sorry
a
I'm
star.
barging in between, but we have to finish it
Yeah,
off.
it is the last point he's
Yeah,
making, yeah.
So it's open market. People will come in. People will create. Business models are going to be different. You will have a AWOT player. You will have a social media platform. You will have, you know, a SWOT platform, a TWOT platform. So that segmentation will happen. Basically, I think so. Video creators will be there. They will survive. We as Geo will provide the net. You know,
Yeah,
to
of course.
enable it, yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your works and looking forward to all of your works coming on to Jio Cinema eventually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for such an engrossing, interesting, and really, really nice session. And you have just set the tone for the day. And it was so interesting to listen to all of you, although we did not want it to get over. But yes, we're running short of time. That's why. So can we give them a huge, huge round of applause, please? I'll take a moment of yours, Mayank, to felicitate all our esteemed speakers first. So maybe start with Mr. Abhimanyu Singh first. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Now we'll move on to felicitate Mr. Samar Khan. Applause should continue. Now to Mr. Goldie Behel. Absolutely well. How are you? Thank you so much, Goldie. Now to Mr. Kaushal. Thank you so much, everyone.